What's shaking, guys? MagicActivatr here, bringing you guys coverage for Week 1 of the IBL Season 1 playoffs. And I am not here alone to talk about today. We are joined by Coach of the Rhode Island Reggies, none other than my good friend, TheNerdySteve.
What's going on, guys? TheNerdySteve here, your coach of the Rhode Island Reggies, making it to the playoffs as the underdog of the entire series.
All right, and we're here today to talk about the results of our first week of the playoffs. So I say let's just go ahead and jump right into it and kick things off with the Johto Conference and the matchup between the Sao Paulo Cyndaquils, coached by Charlie Zard, and the Rhode Island Reggies, coached by TheNerdySteve. So looking at the matchup here, it was a really, really interesting battle to see unfold because this is actually the second match that the Cyndaquils and the Reggies, or third match actually that
It's
the
actually third match.
yeah the Rhode Island Reggies
match.
and the Cyndaquils have played. So these two teams should at this point be pretty familiar with each other, which is pretty interesting. They've prepped for each other twice, and so this is actually a really, really significant match in terms of who can just outright play the best game. And as we can see, there is a 3-0 victory this week for the Sao Paulo Cyndaquils. So, Steve, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what was brought, and let's talk a little bit about this match.
For the Reggie side, we brought the Roserade, the Skarmory, the Regirock, the Rotom Watch, the Mega, the Mega, like a Terria and the Ambipom, and unfortunately we brought the same team, which was a mistake on our side. Clearly would show in the record. But for the Sao Paulo side, they brought the Gliscor, the Entei, the Thundurus, the Vaporeon, the Salamence, and the Metagross. Absolutely amazing team that they have brought. Two of the new monsters she brought that was never brought once before, which would be the Entei and the Salamence, completely threw the team completely apart. We did not see that coming whatsoever. But for a quick recap of the battle, there were a couple of the items and sets that were brought into this week's match that completely turned the tide of the battle to her favor. Such as the Yachi Berry on the Gliscor, and the Short Scarf on the Entei.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me, it's completely random. It
yeah,
worked.
Those items very, very, very smart. And I know looking back on the battle, particularly the Yachi Berry on Gliscor gave it a little bit more freedom to kind of stay in a couple of times that it normally might have been scared out. Being able to take that Ice Punch from the Regirock a lot better. And then, of course, with Entei being able to outspeed there. Also, wanted to mention about the Salamence with the Assault Vest there at the end, kind of being able to eat up that hit from the Roserade. Although at that point in the match, I think that the Cyndaquil still would have won, but it would have closed the gap just a little bit more there and gave Steve a little bit more of a chance. But one of the things about that match was that right out of the gate, I know Steve was wanting to Mega Evolve and get that into play as soon as possible. And unfortunately, leading with it kind of put him in the mouse position in the game of cat and mouse, and he had to switch out immediately. And it's always tough when first turn you have to lose the momentum and give it to your opponent.
A lot of momentum during that turn, because we saw the Salamence and we were scared out of no belief because we needed the Dragon immunity, and that was the number one thing that threw the tides to her favors when I saw the Salamence and was completely scared of it. And that pretty much it changed the entire way that we wanted to play the game as we had planned, because our lead was supposed to be like the Roserade with the Focus Sash to have the spikes up, but seeing that everything in her team pretty much kills the Roserade, I got completely scared and I panicked and went into panic mode and was put in the worst like position lead as I could, and that's pretty much one of the biggest mistakes of all of the entire game that might have like caused the like the tide to go to her favor, especially on that +2 on the Thunderous. That was also very very scary part where we had to lose our Rotom Wash that quickly, but we needed to do the damage to that Thunderous as much as we can before we have a chance to go up against it.
Yeah, Thunderous T getting the nasty plot up was one of those moments. I remember watching the match. I was like, oh no, this could be a really big problem, because as we've seen throughout this season, anytime something sets up in this league, it is done work. And Thunderous being as swift as it is and being able to deal out massive damage without a nasty plot to get that nasty plot up, man, it's like it's frightening. And I think honestly, I think you handled the situation as well as you could. I was also gonna say this was the first time that we saw the defog Gliscor brought from the Sao Paulo Cyndaquils. I'm sure mostly
this
being
the
because
second
of
time that she brought it.
Is it the second time? Okay.
Yeah, this is the second time. Week number 10, she brought it because she didn't have any way to defog, which was the only misplace on her team building. Is not having a real defogger, because then that ruins the Gliscor from being a defensive wall with a free healing to you have to run a like a different item, which on her side it helped out with like with the berry to being able to take 2 more hits of any like ice type move. And to me that was a very smart play on her part. Like running the taunt on it as well made it so that I cannot put up my own rocks as well like on her.
Yeah. Also, I was gonna say I really liked the pressure that you kept on her in the matchup between the Reggie and the Gliscor, where that was her form to set up rocks. You answered back with rocks, forced her to defog and clear the field, and just kind of kept pressing with the stealth rock, which ultimately ended up causing her to have to taunt you. But I liked that play there, just basically not knowing that she had the taunt at the time, trying to keep that pressure on her to keep her either having to defog or decide to leave rocks up or switch out or something. So I think this was a very, very nice match. The 3-0 that could have potentially been a 2-0.
Yes.
Again with the assault vest coming through there at the end. Of course, at this point in the season, differential doesn't matter. So
it really doesn't. But like this game would show,
it's a win is a win. So, but it would have been nice to see a Roserade body a Salamence. I'm not gonna lie.
It really. But like this game would show a lot of like risk is more of the reward. If you put more onto risk, you get more of the reward. But on cause like the way that we both played it was a lot either like risky doubles, like risky like switches, very safe switches. So they the way that we saw like each other play was very like risk is more of the reward, and it helped out more on her side where like her risk really did like pay off when she doubled into the Vaporeon when I switched into the Regirock to handle like the Metagross. She risked me either going to the Skarmory or the Regirock, but I risked it to go to the Regirock, and unfortunately that did not help me out. It helped her out in the long run, and that they made it so that like the Regirock had to take a Scald, and in the very end it would have been a very, very close match. Either would have ended it into a 2-0 or 3-0, but right now that it's all said and done, and she did a great job on her side.
Yes, so congratulations to Charlie Zard for moving on to the next round of the playoffs. So let's jump over to the Kanto Conference and check out the match between the Washington Lake Spirits, coached by Elite Four Walkthroughs, and myself, coach of the Memphis Grizzlies. And this was a match that was, I think, one that was kind of exciting for both sides because we've played once before early on in the season, and it ended up being a one-sided match that kind of from both sides. I don't think we felt like we fully got to give it our all in a sense, because it was a 6-0 win because of a sweep, and it didn't really get a chance to see who was going to outplay the other, so to speak, in a longer term match. So this was a match that we were anticipating because unfortunately I had to forfeit our second match that we were going to play throughout the season because I didn't have time to have our battle. So I know Elite was really, really looking forward to this match, as was I. But as we can see, the Memphis Grizzlies end up taking a 2-0 win here in this match. And so, Steve, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what was brought, and we'll talk about the match.
So for the Drizzly side, they brought the Klefki, the Scrafty, the Mismagius, the Jolteon, the Arcanine, and the Mega Venusaur. On the Lake Spirit side, they brought the Mega Scizor, the Quagsire, Raikou, Latios, Mienshao, and Credilli. And honestly, for both teams, they're both really scary threats on both sides of the field. One really does it all depended on who played it better, and in the long run, like in this battle, it is pretty much safe on safe action. And if you guys saw the replay, you all saw that if you play it safe, you get the win, and they both played it as safe as possible, and that really helped them out in the long run. And for their team, I know that the Rindleberry would have been really, really good for the Quagsire to have, but having it knocked off really, really didn't help them at all. For the Raikou being choice specs, it did help out in a little bit, but the damage doesn't really help when you have a wall on the Klefki that can kind of wall it with the spreads. The Credilli with the with the leftovers really helped it live a little bit longer. The Rocky Helmet on the Arcanine really came in clutch every single time that he had to go in versus the Scizor. But the Lumberry did not help at all with the Mismagius whatsoever, since it was such in low health. It didn't really matter in the long run.
Mismagius, what was Mismagius's item? I think
it was a Colbur
Berry. Yeah, Colbur Berry. So yeah, this was a I'm asking you, and it was my team. Yeah, so this match, at least from my perspective, was one where I think from both sides we definitely felt like there were misplays. I think that's just inevitably how Pokemon is you feel like you always could have played certain things better in the end. And I know for me personally, I felt like my front end game was kind of weak. I felt like I didn't play maybe as smart as I could have. I ended up deciding to fairy lock in the choice specs Raikou to get a semi free switch in to the Venusaur, so I could Mega Evolve it without having to worry about an Ice type move or a Flying type move catching me off guard. And I wanted to get that in. There were other points in the match where I felt like, I don't think I went with my gut whenever like I had an instinct of what he wanted to do, and I kind of talked myself out of going for what would have probably been the best play in the situation. And I think that's one of the things that can really cost you in certain points and cause problems, because it ended up costing me my Mega Venusaur, because I just ultimately decided to let it go to sleep because of the yawn on Quagsire, and lost a huge portion of my bulk and my defense. So it was kind of a thing. But I think one of the big turning points of this match, though, was honestly when he decided not to, when he defogged away the hazards. I think that was the turning point of the match, honestly, because at that point Klefki had set up 3 layers of spikes, and it was doing considerable wear on everything he switched in. Since he only brought 1 Mon that was off the ground, everything that was switching in was pretty much taking, spikes damage. He had gotten Stealth Rocks up on my side of the field, which was a bit annoying, but he got rid of, after my Klefki was taken down, he decided to defog away the hazards. And this was the turning point that I honestly think may have ended up in the end winning the game overall, was the fact that after he defogged the rocks away and he brought Cradily back in, he never set Stealth Rocks back up. And as much work as Arcanine did mid to late game, I think that was crucial, because it gave me freedom to switch in and out Arcanine a lot more. And ultimately, Arcanine being kind of the final answer there at the end, when he had his choice scarfed Mienshao left. I was able to intimidate because he was my defensive Mon. I was able to take the knockoffs pretty well, and then ultimately take him out with an overheat and an E-speed. So
speaking of the like overheat, I think that was like a smart choice on the team building side, because then you would hit on like the scissor on the special side. The flare blitz would not be able to make your like Arcanine last any longer. It would actually slowly like window your like Arcanine down each and every turn that you use like the flare blitz. So I think that in a team prep version, that was a very nice choice to pick that. The scissor having aerial ace was a really good answer to the Mega Venusaur. But not putting up the rocks was, I think, a very bad mistake, because with the rocks up, he was not able to do the damage when he actually needed to each and every time that you had to switch.
Yeah, and it could have been one of those things where he wasn't, because I think it happens to everyone where we don't think about. I remember in the match, he defogged the rocks away, and I was happy when he defogged them away, because I was thinking the rocks were gone. And then a few turns later, I'd kind of forgot about the fact that he hadn't done it, until I switched in my Arcanine and realized, hey, I'm still at full health. So like, if it was just one of those things where he, forgot that he didn't have Stealth Rocks up anymore, I'm not sure. But as many turns as Cradily was on the field and kind of that standoff between Scrafty and Cradily, there was plenty of opportunity to get those rocks up, but
yes,
ultimately him not doing that, I think was the misplay on his side that ended up kind of costing him there. Like I said, there were mistakes made on both sides. I put myself into a very uphill battle early game. I feel like letting Klefki go early. Like I said, not switching out or using Roar on Venusaur after I had been yawned, because I figured he was either going to switch or recover, and honestly switching would have been the better play. And I was thinking more short term of not wanting him to get a free recover on Quagsire. So again, I put myself in a bad position early on, but mistakes from both sides ended up being able to, kind of turn the tides and everything. So it was definitely an intense match, and like all the way up to that very end, it was like, I know as someone in the match, I was kind of on the edge of my seat, just trying to think of every possibility of how I could take the match there at the end. But it was probably one of the most exciting end of the game moments that I've had all season. So,
And can we give like a shout out to the Quagsire getting a burn, getting
yes,
2 burns this entire game. Getting 2 burns.
Yeah, that's been Elite's big thing all season. Is Quagsire has not gotten any burns whenever it was really clutch, and
one that mattered.
He got 2. He got 2 in this match that were pretty nice. One on the Scrafty, which was a really big, huge thing. It allowed him his Latios to live a knockoff,
a crit knockoff.
Yes, a crit knockoff, and then we saw another burn on the Miss Magi. So Quagsire finally got 2 burns, and actually I believe Scrafty ended up dying to the burn.
Because he got burned. So the Latios was able to live the recover war against the knockoff. Only doing, I think, was 45% each time, and with the recover, like always doing half. If you got another crit, that wouldn't mattered, but like him, like having the burn meant that you had to go for knockout no matter what, hoping for a crit.
Yeah, at that point, I know I honestly wasn't banking for a crit as much as I was kind of just trying to, like, at that point, kind of trying to sack off Scrafty to get the clean switch into Jolteon. But either way, it was an intense match. It was an exciting one for me. I had a lot of fun in that match. I hope Elite did as well. But with that being said, the Memphis Grizzlies are advancing to round 2 of the playoffs. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and bring up the next week's matches so everybody knows what to look forward to.
So for the Johto Conference, we have the Texas Tyrantums that were taking a nice rest, a nice week off that they needed in the number 1 spot, going up against one of the rivals, which is going to be the Sao Paulo Cyndaquils. This is going to be a very intense battle because I think that when they battled, they actually the Cyndaquils won. I think it was a 1-0. It was a very close battle.
Yeah, it was a very, very close battle.
So I know that the Tyrantums is going out for blood this time around, especially with the new members in the team, new strategies that's going to happen. We just have to see if the Cyndaquils is going to bring what they need to bring in order to match with all of the like immunities that the Tyrantums have in their team.
Yeah, and so then over in the Kanto Conference, we're going to have the Mucha Lucha Haluchas playing against the Memphis Grizzlies. And this is going to be a fun one. I think myself and Shell are pretty good friends, I'd say, and we enjoyed our match last time a whole lot. Ended up me winning out the last time with a pretty big win, and so hopefully this time around we're gonna have a much closer, much more intense match. I know I was incredibly nervous going up against him last time because, again, you see his team and all you gotta really see is Kieran Black, and it automatically sends shivers down your spines a little bit. So
it sure does.
So it should definitely be a interesting matchup, and I want to say, like, it's cool to see because early on in the season we actually kind of had like a big vote on who everyone thought was the most threatening team in the league based off of their draft and everything, and the top 3 teams were the Texas Tyrantrums, the Sao Paulo Cyndaquils, and the Memphis Grizzlies. So to see all 3 of those teams in the semifinals now. I think
it's
probably confirmed some
yeah,
suspicions of who
it
was
sure does.
who were threats and stuff like that. So
You know what? It does make sense though, because all of the four teams in the playoffs that are in the semifinals are one of the most threatening teams overall, and I want to see who comes out as the champion. I want to see who is actually better, like the Kanto region or the Johto region. We will see in 2 weeks. But
yeah,
for the
and
week coming up, we need to see how the Mucha Luchas how the Haluchas do like versus you to get their sweet revenge, and so does the Tarantums are out for blood too. So the number
yeah,
one spots are out for blood.
yeah. So it's gonna be intense, I think, and so we'll see how it goes. Again, we're seeing teams that have played each other before, so uh, any of those surprises that might have been around for week one or for the first matchups, they're gonna be gone now. So we're gonna see, and we'll also see what happens. Will the week off be a benefit to the other teams, or will it be a hindrance? We'll see what happens. Are they gonna be on top of things? Maybe they spent this week, getting ready. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. I'm excited for round two.
As am I. I'm just waiting for see who's going to win and who's going to be on top. I can't wait.
All right, guys. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up our coverage here of week one of the playoffs. We will be back next week to talk about the results of round two. So we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button down below for us and let us know what you're looking forward to in the rest of the playoffs, which teams you're pulling for, all that kind of stuff. But for now, guys, we are going to get out of here. So have yourselves a good day. Stay cool, and we will catch you next time.